Hello, hello. Welcome to the Statloba Podcast, first episode of our 2024-2025 season. Today we're talking about Erling Haaland and how amazing he has been so far in this season and in the English Premier League. And joining me today is Ian Evans, our own Ian Evans, the maestro of soccer, player himself, coach, data expert, tactic expert, name it. He is your man. So you want to say hello, Ian?
Thanks, Dash. I don't know about data maestro. I think that's more up your alley, but or any kind of maestro. But yes, I'll do my best to live up to those lofty expectations that you've so kindly set for me. Thanks, Dash.
You're welcome. So today we're talking about Erling Haaland. He's been in this incredible form. Like last season, he was the top scorer in the Premier League. He got a little bit of break during the summer, but he's rested because he didn't go to the international tournaments over the summer, and he's banging goals just for fun. Currently on par with young Messi and CR7 when they were around this age, and in a way, like a number 9 performing like this in a Pep Guardiola team is quite amazing. The coach who kind of invented the false 9, man who played Henry on the wings and fell out with Zlatan and sold Eto'o, and a lot of people always said like, wow, like he number 9, like a Erling coming to Man City, like is that a bad move for him? But it's not. It's been complete opposite. Impressive. We'll just go over this. So let's start it off. Now it will be me less talking and Ian answering all the questions that we have. So let's start it off, Ian. Like, why do you think? First of all, like, why is Erling's performance such a big achievement?
Yeah, so essentially it's such a big achievement. If you look at the screen here, this is just for this current season. In 9 goals in 4 games in the Premier League. How many goals would Erling Haaland score this season if he maintains his current Premier League ratio, game time, and reaches all finals? Obviously, that's no guarantees that that'll happen, but you're looking at a total of 152 goals, 86 in the Premier League, Carabao Cup 14, Champions League 38, FA Cup 14. Quite frankly, these are numbers that would exceed prime Messi and prime CR7, like you said. Obviously, he hasn't reached these numbers yet, but it just shows you the unbelievable rate at which he's scoring goals. Another look at his Premier League statistics. Yeah, his first season, of course, we all know he broke the single season goal record in the league with 36 goals in just 37 appearances. It was an off season last year, as many said, but still he ends up with 27 goals and 33 appearances. We all recall he was out injured for a considerable portion of the season. He didn't really get clicking into gear 100% right away after that. But we see also 9 goals in 4 games, as we mentioned, this season. Absolutely ridiculous return. So I think just to round it out, answer your question again, yeah, it's so impressive because he's such a young player, and we just haven't seen goal scorers like this in the Premier League really ever. I mean, you can put Alan Shearer up there, but not sure that he would have the same type of rate over time. So we'll see how it develops for young Haaland, but very impressive indeed to date.
Yeah, so that's that kind of like falls in nice segue into talking about like, so of course last season he had injuries, so like he couldn't play some games, and after injury like his momentum kind of stalled a little bit. He looked fatigued a little bit. How do you think he's navigating the challenge of Premier League at it, and in some ways also excelling at it, is especially because like coming back into the third season and doing so well so far?
Yeah, great question. So I think, like you said, I just mentioned previously, last season he did have the injury problems. The season before that, they went all the way to the Champions League final. So they're playing, late into May, early June, not much of a break in the summer, coming with a lot of travel with the preseason tour. So that all of that, maybe a lot of football, a lot more so than he had had with Dortmund and Salzburg in previous seasons. So that may have taken its toll a bit. And like we said, he picked up the injury and didn't really click back into gear immediately after coming back. Although, as we said, also he did end up with 27 league goals in just 33 appearances, which was any other striker would be absolutely ecstatic with those numbers. That's absolutely elite statistics, nearly a goal a game, which again is what he's averaging for his Manchester City career, just about a goal a game in the Premier League. But I think he's been able to kick off so strongly this summer. Many have mentioned this, but it is worth mentioning that, Norway were not in the European Championships this summer. So he got a proper, holiday, got a proper rest, was able to take things at his own pace and really, really get into good shape and prime himself for the season. And I think that in large part, that's why you're seeing him, kick off such a great start to the season. Obviously, Manchester City didn't go to the Champions League final last year. They did play the FA Cup final, but in that first season, they won the treble, so they're in Champions League final, FA Cup final, very late in the season or into the early summer. So, I think he's had the chance to really regroup, revitalize himself for this season. You're just seeing it pay off in huge dividends.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned like the rest and everything, but I think like one of the other parts of it is also like I was saying about Pep Guardiola a little bit, but he is really good with the strikers. Like I mean, Messi is one of the best examples of it. Like I think when we think about strikers, we think about number nines, like the big, tall, or like strong center forward. They haven't kind of put in there, but it seems to me that he's found his place around Pep's squad here. I think he just feels in the team. It seems like he also has like a very good support structure around him at City. He's kind of like this guy. Like if you look at some of his older interviews at Dortmund or something too, like he kind of like felt it. Seems like an easy guy to just like kind of like he fills in the space. He's becomes friends with people. But what do you think about Pep's role in this and how City Manchester City structure is helping him in this case?
I think in the past, many people had an opposing view of Pep. Famous falling out with Zlatan Ibrahimovic, kind of more of your classic number 9 player, big, strong. Obviously, he's got more to him than that. Great skill. He had good pace back in the day. Samuel Eto'o as well. I believe he saw Eto'o on his way out from Barcelona, sent him over to Inter. So in the past, many times the classic number 9 wasn't quite a fit for his style. And I think you even saw that a bit with Aguero, although I do think Aguero is a bit of an out and out 9.
Yeah.
He can really play that false 9 position that became so famous under Pep with, like you said, Lionel Messi, David Villa, other players of similar ilk. So I think that Pep has done a great job. They brought Haaland in. They did alter their style a bit, and they're open to going a bit direct. Ederson can play great long balls out of the back. If it's on, they get their head up. They look. Maybe they still don't play these super direct balls all the time. They still have their possession based style, moving the opposition around side to side, really wearing them down with passes and cutting through with the wingers and good penetrative passes, but particularly with those back players, and also with Ederson and with Kevin De Bruyne, when you have a player like that who can play an incredibly accurate ball over 30, 40, 50, 60 yards, curling around the defense, splitting defense on the ground, in the air. They do have the players that can play that very direct pass that we see Haaland really loves, peeling off the back of the central defenders. And once he's in those positions and it's an accurate pass, it's going to take something quite special to stop him.
Incredibly great finisher as well. So like you don't want to give him any bit of that space. And what you're mentioning earlier, like that goal that he scored with that Ederson ball, direct ball, he has time to just block the defender. Like he stops for a second, slows him down because of his body, and then runs in. No chance at all. Like
his positioning is fantastic. He plays like a player who is so much older than he is, because he does at this age have a lot of top flight experience. Like you said, he peels off the back. His positioning is perfect. He knows where the ball's coming. He gets goal side of the defender. He just slightly slows down a bit, so the defender has to bump him, and from there it's over. Because that stopped all the defender's momentum, and he's just in on goal. And many people have said this recently, but it does ring true that I don't think there's a player certainly currently, but maybe even over my lifespan, that once they get in that 1-versus-1 position with the goalkeeper breakaway, you're sure that it's going to be a goal. And if it's not, you're pretty shocked. Just a little bit more of what I was talking about. So you see that ability to play direct in behind. Haaland really takes up nice positions in the middle, getting in between the central defenders, so he knows where to position himself. He knows he has the pace that he can start a bit deeper to make sure he's onside. And then when you have a player like Kevin De Bruyne, he can very, very easily play this pass right through, split them. He can play it on the ground. He can play it over the top. And then once that ball is released and doesn't have a chance of being intercepted, there's nothing that these defenders are going to be able to do. So that's, getting on the back shoulder of the center back. So it's funny because these players know that this is the guy they need to be focused on. They know they need to know where he is at all times. But much like Cristiano Ronaldo in the penalty area, he still finds a way to create that space for himself and get himself into the right position. So this is follow through after the ball's played through. He gets himself into that 1v1 position, and we all know what happens from here. This is their match against West Ham. So from one, it's very direct. One pass, one or two touches, the second or third touch, a finish. This is a bit further up, but same idea. Getting in between the defenders, getting on the backside of the player who's marking him. He knows De Bruyne can make this pass. Slots him in. Again, playing off the back of the defender. This is kind of more classic City, where they've broken it down through here and they've got it out to their winger or wing back. And Haaland, this is going to be a double movement where he sells his movement towards the goal. And I believe this is Lisandro Martinez taking the bait. And then he makes his other movement inside here and the ball's cut back and he gets a nice finish. So just a bit of breakdown of different ways they can get Haaland involved. Obviously, he can score with his head. He can score with either feet. Most of his goals coming from inside the penalty area. And like we said, Pep has certainly adapted his style a bit to fit Haaland, and he's really fit him in well and set him up in positions that we know he's going to succeed. And that's a huge part of why you see such an outrageous output, even though his output was already very high before, but it seems to have gone to even another level now with Pep.
That's a very nice segue into our next part. And of course, so Pep has, like you can see from what you're telling us just now, that he's adapted the gameplay quite a bit to have the chances created for Haaland. And if you have a guy like him, why not just put a ball really next to his feet or something? Because 9 out of 10 times he'll bury it. But this is much more direct than Pep's style of play, like that we know from years ago, right? That pass from Ederson directly into him, or this kind of movement. isn't there. So like my question is two-part. Of course, we see that Pep's been adapting this game. Do you think Erling is also doing that on the opposite side, or do you see it's kind of similar? And do you think because Pep has been adapting this gameplay a little bit, do you expect like some unexpected outcomes out of it, either tactically or in terms of numbers?
So on the point of Erling adapting his style, we see here, this is season heat map of his movement, of his positions he takes up. This is with his last season with Borussia Dortmund. We can skip forward and compare that to how his movement is under Pep at Manchester City. So moving forward, this one now is his season heat map from last season. So let's toggle back and forth. Very similar, maybe spending a bit more time up here at the top with Dortmund right in the middle. So that that's probably his starting position from where they have the ball deep. Obviously he does his work defending corners because he's very good in the air. Spending a lot of time in these areas, a lot of time in the middle of the penalty area. This area here is really where he gets a lot of his goals, right around this area. So we see here under Pep, he's finding himself much more often in these areas, a little less time this deep. So his starting position seems to be a bit higher. He's actually spending less time in the attacking midfield just before the final third. He's spending a lot of time in the penalty area. So that's a slight change. That may also be in large part because Manchester City are so dominant with their possession and they really pin teams in their own half. So that leads to him being in the penalty area more than he was at Dortmund, who not nearly as possession based, more of a counter-attacking team than Manchester City. And then we can compare that to this season. It's going to look a little lighter because there's less matches played, but it looks similar, right? He's still spending a lot of time in this central, the penalty box area. He's getting back. He's doing his work here. His starting position around here, maybe a little higher, but typically he's getting into these areas quite a bit. Yeah, he's adapting to the style. I think maybe the higher starting position makes sense because, Manchester City would like to clear that area out to really hold the ball with their midfield and defenders stepping forward. So it makes sense that he would clear out that area and get further forward. It can leave him a bit isolated at times, but it also makes sense that he's spending more time in the penalty area based on the fact that they're creating tons of chances most games they play. So as the spearhead of the attack and being that he scores most of his goals from that area, it makes sense that he would be there. So I think those are the things you see. He probably doesn't get actually into those 1v1 positions as much as I seem to remember on the counterattack with Dortmund. I mean, you do still see it, of course, but Dortmund tend to play much more direct than Manchester City do. So it makes sense that the other team get the counterattack. They see Erling in that position. They want to get it to him there every single time as much as possible. Whereas there's a lot more options available for Manchester City. They can kill you in many ways. And their style of play and Pep's general style of play is to really control a lot of the ball, to really pin the other team in their half, to dominate those midfield areas and create a lot of chances and create open space by moving the ball back and forth, up and down. They like to spread the other team out, wear them down so those gaps start opening up and they can get their wingers in behind, which leads to Haaland being in the middle of the penalty area, finishing off those chances. But again, they do still go direct at times when it's on. But I think that's what the difference you're seeing is. It's not quite as much direct, like run and gun. We're going to just get the ball up to him every single time we can, which is what makes the fact that he's scoring all those goals even more impressive, because he just shows how versatile of a finisher he is and how clinical he is in terms of the chances that he gets and the amount that he takes.
And I think many ways, like what you're saying, one of the things that I was noticing on those heat maps was also like how central he was. But in the screenshots or like the thing you showed, where especially the one with Kurt Zuma, you have him running behind in the West Ham game, but that's like leaving the wingers completely free, and one winger, like which is a right winger, is running, but the defender is actually trying to go in to cut in. So that is kind of like for me.
Yeah, this one here is what you're talking about. So he's completely consuming these two center backs. It looks like the right back's having a tough time getting back.
At this point, like De Bruyne like passes that to him through the middle between Katsuma and number 3, and then he gets the ball and he scores. But at the same time, like you cannot just see like how open just his run is making like everyone else around him, right? So you have one guy on the wing, completely free, and then the other defender is trying to catch up, and then you have another one like for like a left back coming up, and he's completely free. So my question to you now is, do you see both in terms of like the gameplay, like any unexpected outcome, or also in like a team management way, like are there any unexpected outcomes out of this adaptation that Pep and City team have been doing?
Yeah, so I think you just hit the point there. When you have a player who's so dominant and who's such a threat that everybody knows, it of course is going to lead to other players having more open space. So you even see here, number 3 knows he needs to defend this player who's running in. But at the same time, you can see that he knows that this matchup is here and he's getting ready to maybe have to come across. So he's thinking about 2 different things here about this player, but he knows this is probably the more direct threat. You see his body shape is facing inwards. I mean, of course, he's running back. That might not be the biggest indicator, but I guarantee you that this player, seeing all of this unfold, he knows who's on the ball. He knows this gap is here. He knows I need to maybe make this recovery run. So that would, this player is now free to potentially overlap outside and get up here, so that if Haaland comes here and finds himself with 2 or 3 players, he just has a simple slipped pass either to his left or to his right to unlock either of these 2 players. Because we see, the right back is not quite in position here. So let's say that De Bruyne disguises this pass now, and you have these 2 central defenders very central, not paying at all attention out here. This player's out of position. De Bruyne can just as easily slot this pass through here to the left wing, and he's in acres of space, which then opens it back up for Haaland in the middle. De Bruyne can follow up his run to the 18. This player here would also be available for, so now all of a sudden you don't just have this direct threat. If De Bruyne sees this and is like, okay, I don't like my chances here, of course he is going to like his chances there. But if for whatever reason he doesn't, he can slot this pass wide out here. He's very capable of playing the ball through that gap. We've seen him do passes like that time and time again. So I don't know if it's unexpected for Pep or or the team, but yeah, it's going to open up a lot more chances for other players. Yep. And then, not just in this example, but plenty of other examples. Think about if there's a corner kick, if there's a free kick, or just the run of play, a ball getting crossed in. We know that Haaland is a huge threat in the air as well. You're probably going to get, if possible, the other team might want to put 2 players on him. So that's opening it up for one of their other behemoths to come up. Ruben Diaz, Akanji, Rodri, John Stones, It's you either go man to man with all of them, or you run the risk of letting Haaland dominate. I think those are some very nice, unexpected outcomes for the rest of the team. There's going to be more open space for a lot of other players as well.
Also, like on the other side of it, now you're mentioning it, of course, there's 2 parts to this, right? Like one is last season at least, sometimes Pep was trying to give Julian Alvarez a little bit more time. Absolutely top class player there, like a top talent. So of course, like he has to keep him happy. But you could see like around 60th mark, 65th, Haaland's shoulder going down a little bit already, because he knows he's probably going to be subbed. The other part of it is that like Julian is of course like not happy that he's not getting a lot of playtime and things, and you see that he's moved on this summer. That brings me to this point, which is of course, like this is something probably Pep wouldn't have wanted, because he knows how good Julian is. But of course, if you have a top class players, like 2 of them, then one of them will move on. So to you now though is you see like impacting this season for Holland, right? Like how do you think like it will be like, can we have something looking forward to the rest of the season? Do you this like there's some trends or challenges that could be for Holland or probably even not good for him, like
Yeah.
so
So, I mean, you can look at this two ways. I mean, Julian Alvarez, like you said, is absolutely top class. He's won everything you can win already as a player. He's won the World Cup, the Copa, Champions League, Premier League, at least everything he's capable of winning for where he's been, all the domestic cups. So his trophy case is absurd already. He's played a huge part in all of those teams with adding in goals, assists, really good supporting work, good pressing. So he was a fantastic addition to Manchester City those past few years, and he definitely was able to be slotted in when Haaland was out. Slightly different profile player, different movements, not the same attributes, but good output on all those fronts. And now, like you said, he felt it was time for him to move on, maybe be a top choice elsewhere, which is kind of funny that the beginning of the season at Atletico Madrid, he's sitting behind another huge Norwegian striker, Alexander Sorloth, which is funny. I'm sure that will right itself and he'll play alongside him or be the number one choice. They didn't spend all that money on him for nothing. Yeah, that's another thing that was a boon to City. They signed him for very little and sold him for a massive fee. So like they've really cashed in on him in many ways, you know. I know that Pep would have preferred to keep him, but one thing I was surprised about is that, hey, you look at Manchester City's roster and you don't really see like a clear backup, high quality center forward. They have guys from their system that I'm sure we're not quite aware of or not super familiar with that can come through and be fantastic. But in terms of ready to go, you know what you're going to get from him, can compete in the Premier League, will get goals, assists, will fit right into the style. Losing Alvarez was a big loss from the playing standpoint. So you can look at this as a positive and a negative for Haaland, specifically for him personally. Now, those minutes that he was losing, like you're saying, like maybe coming off 60, 65, 70 minutes, those minutes are going to be his now. So he's going to be playing the better part of 90 minutes. They have the alternative that they can play that false nine, of course, because they've had success with that as well. But so, if you see him getting subbed off, it's going to be a bit more like tactical shift back to more probably traditional Pep ball. So you can see that Haaland will get more minutes. That could lead him maybe closer to those numbers we showed at the start of I'm not expecting him to get 152 goals this season. Maybe this can leave him a bit closer to that mark where he's going to get more minutes. The more minutes he plays on the field, and this is a guy who's goal hungry. We've seen it. We even saw it back in the Youth World Cup against Honduras, where he scored 10 goals in a game. This is a guy who's not going to take his foot off the gas ever. He's going to get his goals. He wants to do the best he can do every time he's on the field, and that's very clear. So he very well could break his scoring records from his first season in the Premier League. At the same time, is this maybe now a situation where he's going to get so many more minutes that he gets another injury and then misses lengthy time of the season? I would think that Manchester City are going to manage him and not allow that to happen. But, that's a potential if he's going to be adding a lot more minutes. Better for him that he didn't have the busy summer that everybody had. But, with the expanded Champions League, playing essentially, 8 group stage matches. I mean, it's not really the group stage anymore, but that's adding a lot. If they don't make that top 8, which I would assume they will, but it's possible that they won't, then you're adding extra playoff games that run into January. There's more international windows these days with the Nations League, etc. So we're just seeing more and more fixtures adding up. This guy typically is super fit. Hasn't had too many injury problems in his career, but did have that last year. So once you start getting injuries, that can start adding up and make them more frequent. So we hope that doesn't happen with him, but that's a potential outcome of losing Alvarez to Atletico Madrid. As an out-and-out 9, at least they could split between those two, but now really it's just Haaland that we see in this squad. They got plenty of wingers. I'm sure some of them can do a job in the middle. You could play Gundogan as the false 9. There's plenty of guys you could play there. Foden, of course. Probably you could play Grealish there. You could play a lot of guys there, but it's not going to be that same crazy goal threat that Erling Haaland has. Yeah, those are two potentials.
Absolutely. Like we have to see. I think are so good at managing their players, which is of course because they also have like a very good squad depth out there. So, but absolutely, like I was failing to think good who could replace him if let's say like he needs to go on a 2 or 3 game break. But we know like the Pep. So have any sense of like prediction or something like? Do you think he's most likely to improve on the stats, or it's kind of going to remain the same as his goal scoring form, or do you think it might even go down because he gets fatigued or something?
Everything I've seen from this player, I would have to predict that he's going to keep improving. I think we can talk about him in the same ilk at this point, at least with his stats, as Messi, Ronaldo in terms of output, and from an age a little older than this, and then over the next course of maybe 8 to 10 years, those players improved over that time. And I expect the same for him, barring any injuries, etc. So yeah, I would expect that he's going to improve upon these stats, which is insane to think, but it does seem that will be the case.
Folks, there you have it. Through things he will keep improving, and let's hope so, because what an incredible season he's been having, and we'd love to see more of those goals. And had more data and some stats to go through, but we'll include that in our description and put a link for it. And you guys feel free to browse and let us know what you think, and send us any questions that you would like to cover in the future episodes. Bye-bye.